Offering services online to students inevitably means that we will run into technological problems. Troubleshooting essentially means trying to find a solution to a problem, whether that's human-related or technology-related. But it isn't easy. Over the last couple of weeks, you've probably experienced some frustration with trying to help students, whether that's because you didn't know how to help them or maybe because the solution you tried didn't work. In today's presentation, we'll discuss ways for you to better help students and examine a couple of solutions to some very common issues in Zoom. There are a couple of things you do want to think about as you endeavor down the path of troubleshooting. One, you don't want to assume anything about students and their technological needs. Two, you want to try to be very patient with yourself and with the student. Three, you want to try some different approaches and seek some help. And lastly, definitely take the time to celebrate a win as you help a student find a solution to some kind of problem. Our students come from many different places, they have many different experiences, so it's dangerous to assume that we know the needs of all students. Some of our students don't have the same technology as we do. They may not have Wi-Fi, they may have data caps, or their technological equipment is just different from what we have. Also, students of all ages have wide ranges of technological abilities. We can't assume that someone who is older can't share their screen or someone who is younger already knows how to annotate. The other thing is that you want to be patient. Students are already experiencing a lot of anxiety when it comes to their technology not working, especially when deadlines are due. So when you are calm and reassuring, they will definitely feel less anxious. Here's something that you can say. I can see this is a stressful situation, but we'll work through this together and find a workable solution. Don't forget to be patient with yourself. You don't have to know everything about everything. There are faculty and staff available to help you, as well as a lot of online resources. Failures help us see the different paths to a solution. Testing out different solutions requires you to think outside of the box. If you don't know how to do that, try Googling a solution or asking a coworker for help. Recently, I was troubleshooting a login issue for my son, and a 7-year-old calmly walked me through the solution step by step in a Zoom meeting. I was very impressed and felt very satisfied afterwards. Students will appreciate your efforts, even if it takes longer than usual, and you'll learn new solutions in the process. So don't give up right away, but also know the limitations of a situation. We'll look at a couple of different approaches to some very common problems in Zoom. Have you ever helped a frustrated student figure out a small technological glitch? The amount of relief they experience, especially during this difficult time, is worth celebrating. Celebrate the win with students, even small ones, by cheering or other nonverbal communication, such as clapping or using Zoom reactions. This positively reinforces that students can overcome obstacles that get in their way of academic success. We'll look at a couple of specific troubleshooting topics. Audio trouble. This seems to be a very frequent problem in our Zoom rooms, and it usually occurs when, one, the student is speaking but we don't hear any sound, or two, the sound is going in and out. I'd like for you to think of a couple of different solutions to this problem and write them in the discussion next to this video. In addition to any of the solutions offered in our discussion, here are a few more. To check the audio, you want to make sure that the button in the left corner is unmuted. And you can also show students how to do this by sharing your desktop. You can also have the student check their audio settings by clicking on the caret at the top. Sometimes students have selected a different microphone. It might be their headphones or some other system, so ask them to check this, as well as their speaker if they can't hear you. And then they can also test their speaker as well as their microphone. There are a few other options in the audio setting, so make sure to share that with them. Sometimes running a video at the same time that the audio is on can take up a student's bandwidth. So if the sound is going in and out, you might want to recommend that the student shut off their video to see if that improves the sound quality. The other thing that a student can do is call into the Zoom meeting using their phone. They can be signed in with 2 different devices. So if you need the phone number for the Zoom room, go back into the main room or request the host join you in your breakout room to provide you with the phone number. You can give that to the student through chat. And speaking of chat, the last thing you can do is communicate with the student using the chat feature. What if a student is experiencing video trouble? Let's say the student is speaking and you can hear them, but you don't see any video. Or the video that they have on has stopped working or is buffering. What are some solutions that you can think of for this problem? Here are a couple. You can try having them turn on and turn off their video to see if that makes a difference. Just like the audio settings, there are also video settings. So the student may want to make sure that the camera that's on their device is selected. They can also go to video settings and change a couple of things here if that'll help. Zoom also has a lot of resources that can be helpful for a student to use. In their Help Center, they have this web page where students can see how to test their audio and their video. And in fact, they have windows for different kinds of devices and systems. Finally, if a student's video doesn't work, they can try using a different device. Another problem a student might experience is related to screen sharing and file sharing in Zoom. What are some solutions that you can think of if a student can't share their screen or a file with you? Here are a few that may or may not have been posted in the discussion. Sharing your desktop and going through the steps can be a useful lesson for students so that they can see how it's done on your end. You can also find a video to share with them. You can try uploading a file in the chat if screen share doesn't work. All Chafee students have a Panther email address that essentially is a Gmail address. Therefore, they have access to Google Drive, so if they want to share a file with you, they can upload it into Google Drive, create a shareable link, and drop that in the chat to share with you. There's also nothing wrong with the old-fashioned way of communicating. There's been a couple of times when I've been in the Zoom room trying to communicate with a student and audio didn't work. And finally, I just raised up a piece of paper to see if they could see it and communicate back. And finally, you can always ask a Chafee faculty or staff member if the student can email a document to them. You don't want to ask the student to email the document to you directly because that would require that you give out your personal email address. So please ask a Chafee faculty or staff member if the student can email them directly. Using interactive tools like annotation and whiteboard are an excellent way to engage a student during a tutoring session. But what if the student can't annotate on the screen or activate the whiteboard? Think of some solutions to this problem and add them to our discussion. There are a couple of solutions. First, you can share your desktop and go through the steps in terms of how to annotate or activate the whiteboard. You could also find a video online to show them how to do this. If annotation and the whiteboard don't work, then share some ideas in chat. or try sharing a Google file where you both can annotate on it at the same time. A student can always hold their document up to the camera, and again, if you'd like, the student can email their document to a Chafee faculty or staff member to forward to you. Finally, students sometimes experience dropped or failed connections. The student's in the Zoom room, and suddenly they're gone. What are some steps that you should take if this should happen? If this should happen, you should return to the main Zoom room and let the faculty member or staff member on duty know so that if the student does return, they can be moved back to your breakout room. If it keeps happening with the student, try to make thorough notes on how far you have gotten in the session, just in case the student returns at a later time or date. If the student has other questions that you can't answer, don't forget that they have access to the Student Support Hub. This particular hub can help connect students to additional departments on campus. Also, Chafee students have access to an online toolkit that can help them navigate online tools and strategies for success. Technical difficulties do not have to result in long-term trouble. They are just temporary glitches to be expected in our now mostly virtual world. So remember that you have the capacity to gracefully troubleshoot these difficulties in an informed way.